We're here at Comic Palooza with Shane Davis, and if you're wondering why we're back with Shane Davis, it's because the first interview we did for TV had to run a little short, so we'll come back and get the longer one.
Now we're here with all the nitty gritty.
So, I mean, we got to start. I mean, since it's a web interview, we could go long. We got to start with your childhood.
Oh, let's go beyond that. Let's, before that, let's just, go
How
with,
you was conceived.
How I was conceived, yeah.
Okay, do you know the story?
On the 6th day of the 6th month of the 6th year, I guess. I don't know.
I know someone else who was like that. No, but I mean, like, was your parents? I guess the thing.
Was it a date or was it,
Well, no, like, okay, your parents.
Where are we at really? Where are we at really? I'm going to a dark place now.
No. Like, okay, like your parents. Did they encourage comics or no?
The funny story is my grandmother, my great grandmother, and she, this was kind of in the South where like people. They didn't really know how old she was. She didn't have a birth certificate, so she was like, I think I'm 97, maybe I'm 96, it was questionable exactly the exact age she was. But
I
she
still
would
have
actually,
family like that.
Yeah. She actually would draw like on the back of like cardboard like boxes that she would unfold. And she actually kind of drew in a linear style, even though she wasn't ever taught. And she would draw like landscapes with animals in the woods and stuff, and it was very comic drawing in a way where it wasn't toned out, it wasn't tonal, and it was all done with lines, and it was kind of weird that, but anyways, somehow I drew like that, and I was, of course, really young, and she was super old, and God bless her, she's gone, but she was like my great-grandmother, not even my grandmother, but I guess it was hereditary. So my parents always endorsed me drawing. My dad, not so much, because I would fill my notebooks up and stuff with it instead of my actual homework. And even if my homework was done, he thought I should be doing like extra credit or something, which is really weird. And I would always get crap for making really good grades in art. And, if I made an A in art and I made a B in math, then why am I not applying myself more to math, and it was like, I don't know, the teacher gives everybody an A in art, Dad, I don't know. So, it was weird as a kid, and then I found comics, and, and then I got turned on with that, but I was actually drawing, like, my toys, believe it or not. That's how... I wasn't even into comics at first. I was just drawing my action figures. So like I would stand them up and actually draw my action figures. So it was like I was wanting to, because I wasn't really introduced to comics at first, but I was actually trying to draw like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures.
So like what, you would like set up like a diorama kind of thing?
No, I would just set up my toy and I would be like, okay, so this is how you draw a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle profile. This is how I turn my turtle around and I draw him from the front. I was actually life drawing these anatomically misproportioned action figures. And, God bless my mom. She's like, oh, you got a talent there. And I think she even knew, like, why, God help him, he's drawing his He-Man toys. I don't know if you looked at them recently, now that you're older, but they're like these little, like, pseudo squatted, like,
they're
preposterous.
Legs is real short.
Yeah. They're really... I think she kind of like, well, we have to encourage him because he's drawing wrong. I think my mom knew. It wasn't even like I was drawing wrong. I was drawing the wrong... I didn't... Well, I mean, and I come from a very rural area where, like, I think my high school, maximum people was in my high school was like under 500 people.
Wow.
I mean, it was so small, and it was North Carolina. And it was so small, so I didn't have a lot of outlets for much less, art training, but like any resources in the art world. Because a lot in the South, a lot of folk art is key, so I could trip all day over like a picture of a NASCAR or a picture of a tractor in the woods. But, figures and form and all that stuff was kind of like Latin, because... the figure as an artistic tool really isn't like endorsed in the Bible Belt a lot, I guess, because of nudities and stuff. So it's not like I could even in at 19, 20, it's not like I could go to a life drawing class. I mean, like, they would have maybe a clothed life drawing class. So it's like it was definitely a weird area for me to come from, because it was all folk art based, and painting a cat on a rock or something. That was the art medium there. And I think advertising maybe came into play at some time in North Carolina and Charlotte and stuff, and graphic design, but that wasn't my interest. So I moved away and to New Jersey and studied art. And then
At what age did you move to Jersey?
When did I move to New
like how old was you?
I was pretty young. I mean, now we're getting into dates and years, but I mean, I was I was in my 20s, so I moved away fairly at a young age.
Pretty young.
Pretty well for that big of a move, just to say goodbye to everybody. And I mean, it's not like anybody went with me. It's not like I had a girlfriend that went with me or anything like that.
Oh, so you went completely alone?
Yeah.
I mean, did you get into the school first? I mean, because you went for art school?
No, I went to school and basically studied drawing, and then a bit, I knew where I wanted to go, so I would do sample pages. Even before I went to school and stuff, I was always going to Comic Cons and trying to talk to people about drawing pages and figure drawing.
Okay,
what
so
you could have
at that point, you knew comics?
Yeah, I knew comics.
I mean, that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I kind of got into comics with, I think, the Archie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic books, and then I ended up getting turned on to the Marvel superheroes and stuff, which, it was weird at that time. Stuff like it's really weird now in hindsight, because things like Captain America and Iron Man and even some of the X-Men weren't as popular as they are now. It's really hard for people to understand that, but at that time, not to act like I'm ancient, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were cool, and whatever was Thundercats were cool, things like that. It really wasn't
I mean, not to cut, but the best way I could say to make your point, Marvel sold the rights to Spider-Man and X-Men.
Yeah.
Movie-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, Marvel couldn't even get movies of those characters. They didn't think it was worth anything. I mean, it was a different time.
It was a different time. I mean, from a rural area. It's not like, but then I got into the darker McFarlane Spider-Man is really when I got pulled into the Marvel universe and the monthly comics that Marvel and DC would put out, and then I started to get into Batman a little bit, and I had a very restrictive source of material I could get, and then there was 90s boom with those creators.
A huge
boom with those creators. And X-Men became very fruitful then. Like, I remember before X-Men #1 and X-Force and all those books, and I remember after, and it was a complete 360.
I think some of the X-Men books were selling like 5 million issues.
From a commercial point of view, it was really, the John Byrne stuff was great, but it had a very fresh feel to it. So it was very edgy and.
Oh, then Image.
And then there was the Image stuff, and that kind of eventually kind of burnt me at the end of it, though, because I ended up with a lot of books that were kind of not readable towards the end of the Image.
A lot of people did, though. A lot of
people did. I mean, there was really good stuff like Savage Dragon and Spawn, but then even Wildcats to a point. But then there was a lot of bad stuff that kind of burnt your wallet at the same time. So
everything was a special $30 cover.
Yeah. Which I didn't get into those, thank God. But
what was your first comic that you? I mean, the inside drawing, like not cover, but like the first
that I drew.
Yeah.
Nobody ever wants to say that, but it was like some Robin artwork. I'm not going to say the issue number, but it was actually drawing Robin. And then later on, I did some Nightwing.
Robin was a good series, though.
It was, but it was my worst work. I mean, it was my first work, so it's always.
Oh, really?
Work. Nobody ever wants to talk.
We're going to pull that up now and show it.
Yeah. You can pull that up and show that at the bottom of the screen, and that's a big L for you for doing that, but. No, it's and then later on did some Batman work, but it was funny, like I actually, after doing some of those fill-ins, I ended up getting into the DC merchandising, licensing artwork, so it kind of all comes around full circle. I ended up having to, when you have those images for kids merchandise, you're really left with no story, no background even sometimes, and just like how and what makes this character visually interesting.
Is
so
that
I had a
freeing?
lot of Batman. Does it what?
Is that like freeing for you?
No, it's on the spot. Like you have to,
It's more
you have
pressure.
to. Well, not even that. You have to like go in and you have to go for the jugular on like, well, why is Batman cool? Well, the ears, the cape, and you can make this interesting silhouette shape. Or like I had like characters like Two-Face, which actually I think I saw some Converse shoes from Journeys recently that had that my Two-Face artwork on it, where you actually then you're like, okay, well, what makes Two-Face cool? Well, it's Two Faces and stuff like that. But there were other villains like Scarecrow and Killer Croc, and I think Ra's al Ghul was, believe it or not, the weakest, but visually. But out of all those, like you end up like, okay, well, what type of shapes, what type of body gestures do it says about their characters? And then I actually learned a lot in that when I actually got an assignment or I was working on, say if I had somebody ask me to draw Spider-Man, well, what makes Spider-Man special from this character? If I was drawing Superman, what makes him special from, Batman? What makes, how is their gesture? How do their capes flow? Is a little bells and whistles that is more so with the DC Universe characters with all the capes that you started to want to pull out and define. And I took some of those lessons in with me on like Superman, Batman, and then Earth 1 Superman. What Batman work I did do at DC, I encompassed that with me. So.
You was describing the differences. I have just a stupid question that popped in my mind when you was talking about that.
I love stupid questions.
Just because you're an artist, I have to. You said it made me think of it. If I was to say, draw me Batman and Superman, but buck naked, I mean, would there be differences? I mean, like if you eliminate the bells and whistles, would you be? I mean, like in your mind, because you drew him so much, would you go? Yeah, well, this is Batman's butt, and this is
Superman's butt. This is Batman's butt.
Yeah, or like his abs, or
One would probably look happy, and one would just probably look uncomfortable. And there
so,
you
like,
go.
if you strip them away, they're both pretty. Because they're both supposed to be peak, chiseled excellence. I mean, right? I mean,
maybe one guy waxes, the other guy doesn't.
I'd imagine Batman doesn't wax.
You think Batman doesn't wax?
I don't know. Clark Kent probably could get away with waxing. But I mean, you're the one that made it pop in there with the whole. I mean, because
Superman has to use his heat vision to shave, right? He has to hold a mirror and reflect his heat. So, like, if he was waxing,
I remember seeing that in Lois and Clark.
So if he was like trying to remove his, trying to keep this PG, like if he was trying to remove his no.
You're
for
good.
me, like I don't. Like,
I'm thinking about his
I don't
pubes.
need an attorney coming up to me.
Let's
say if he was wanting to remove his chest hair, I guess he's like having to tilt the camera, the mirror down.
That's just. I'm worried about
all kinds of creepy.
How does he do his back?
It's a mirror behind him, so he's like,
He's got a boom, boom, boom.
Your hair, like when you get your hair cut and the lady turns you around, she's like, hold the mirror. And so you're looking in the mirror and looking back there.
So he's zigzagging it.
Back of his head. And
his life must be very difficult.
Grooming's got to be difficult for Superman, right?
It's got to be.
It's
really
the
got
only way
to be.
to go at it.
Especially haircuts. How does that happen?
There's an old Jimmy Olsen cover where it's Superman's pal, and he's sitting in the chair, and the barber's trying to cut his hair. Maybe it's not Superman. I might have title wrong, but it's on the calendar I have in my studio. And the guy's breaking scissors over his hair.
Sure.
So, it had to be difficult for Superman to be groomed, I guess.
I think that's one of the worst things they did, but make him that strong. Was hair was invincible. I mean that.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I guess if he walked out of a nuclear explosion and
his hair should be gone.
Yeah, if his skin was only vulnerable. I mean, that's the problem is when people get too technical with these things, you start to really bust it off.
The thing I love about Superman is, I think it was part 4, where Lex Luthor stole Superman's hair that was holding to 10,000 pounds and made Nuclear Man. I just loved that one shred of hair was holding 10,000 pounds over at the museum. It was a horrible movie, but I love that part. But I mean, as an artist, I mean, you draw really detailed. Like I've never heard anyone say like, Okay, I'll give you some examples. You don't have to say nothing. But I've heard, because I don't want you to get in trouble, I've heard some people, I don't know, mention like John Burns and Rob Liefeld and some other, pretty famous artists. And I would put you in that echelon now.
Yeah.
And every fan has got a complaint. He can't draw feet. What's he do with arms? Every neck, I've not heard anyone complain on you. I mean, I've heard some people say, oh, no, I like this guy more. But I've never heard anyone complain.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel good, knowing that no one is out there, like, stabbing you with a fork about how you messed up a foot or a toe? Or, I mean, if they have, I haven't seen it.
It's weird, like, because what it leaves me with is the criticisms. It's honestly like if I did mess up, like, on something, like, structure-wise is what you're saying, I think you're pointing out that people aren't criticizing my forms and structures.
Yeah.
All right. Let me whittle it down. What it leaves you with is the people that just want to hate me. So then they have to come up with some reason to hate me when it's just they could politely say, I just don't like Shane Davis.
Yeah, because they can't
like
mess with your art. They really can't.
Well, they didn't, but then that leaves them at like, well, it's just emo Superman. Well, it's just hoodie, and it's just, it's just this, and it's just that. And it's Jim. There's this one guy, because he doesn't pull any punches with me. I don't know his name. I just know IGN, and it's always the same guy. Always hates on me, and he's like, and if you can, it's funny, and I'm gonna really point him out because I've been waiting for this. But if you look at this guy's reviews on me, it starts out at my career at Mysteries in Space, and he's like, oh, Shane Davis, he needs to be more polished like Jim Lee, and I'm like, all right, whatever. And I have different inkers, so depending on that inker, I'm gonna
that
have
can make a huge difference.
It'll make an edge to certain lines and stuff, and it can add or give it a different feel, a rougher feel, or a smoother feel, or a more waxy, polished feel, whatever. Different inking can lend to that. So that I've had different inkers over the last 10 years. I think I'm at my 10-year anniversary. So in 10 years, I've had different inkers. And you'll see other reviews where he's like, so at first he's like, this answers your question in a long story. I'm going to try and make it short, though.
No, please.
He'll say at first, like, oh, well, you should look more like Jim Lee. And then go down a couple more issues. Well, he's like Jim Lee, but without the substance.
What does that mean?
But at first he's criticizing me to be more like Jim Lee. Not that I love Jim's stuff, and I love a lot of artist stuff. I love Joe Kubert. I love Alex Toth. I love Travis Charest is actually my biggest God pedestal guy. Travis Charest and Art Adams. And it's funny, you can see their stuff and the other guy's stuff they always compare me to. And it's like, well, if you looked at Art Adams stuff, from the X-Men annuals, you'd probably see some of the things I like, whatever. Just some of the qualities they have. It
seeks in, the inspiration.
Yeah. It becomes relative if you actually look at what I like. But anyways, and then it just becomes like, okay, man, why don't you just stop reviewing my stuff and just say I don't like Shane Davis? Or just say that at the beginning of the interview, I just don't like Shane Davis, or at the review, because I have every single piece of work. You're either criticizing me that I need to look more like Jim Lee, or that, he just doesn't look like Jim Lee. And it's like, well, what do you want? I'm not Jim Lee.
You see, I have to...
And that's it. It's like, well, what do you want? I'm not Jim Lee. And it could be, and there's nothing, I don't mean to use Jim's name here, but that's what the guy says. I mean, he could just, he should be more like Art Adams, and then, he's just not Art Adams. Fuck Shane Davis, he's not Art Adams. It's like,
I have to agree with you completely on that, because I review movies and stuff on the site, and like stuff that I don't like, I won't even attempt to review, like Twilight. I'll actually say, here's someone else's review for Twilight.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to hear me talk about it, because it's not coming from me.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I get left with when you're saying, well, people don't say, oh, Shane hates on, but I don't expect everybody to love me. I think it was like Bill Cosby said, he didn't know the formula for success, but he knew the formula for failure was trying to make everybody happy. Because it's impossible, and I knew that from the get-go. You can't make everybody happy, and I don't try to be honest. I do try to draw as well as I can, depending on what I'm asked to draw. You know, I mean, some projects I come onto aren't really concepts. I'm talking in a project birthing. I wouldn't have said, hey, one day I want to draw a Superman that's 20 years old leaving home for the first time. That's nothing
Who doesn't want to be
a
Superman?
little kid, I'm like, I just want to draw this boy's life.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to draw Catcher in the Rye. I never said I wanted to draw Catcher in the Rye. I wanted to draw Wolverine with claws. If they criticize that concept, that's not criticizing me or my work. That's the concept of the book that you might not like. So people don't really get their peas and carrots, you know.
You brought up a very valid point about today, especially with the internet. Everybody on Earth wants to review things that they shouldn't. I mean, like even professional, going back to the 40s, professional reviewers reviewed what they knew they could talk about, what was marketed. Like I could review something that's marketed towards me and tell you if it's bad or good. But I have no business reviewing something that's marketed towards a 14-year-old girl.
And sometimes that's what it is. It's everybody on the internet. It's a beautiful thing that everybody can have an opinion, but people don't ask themselves, well, okay, am I the demographic that this applies to? And instead, you end up with there's criticism towards the projects. I mean, I think my biggest criticism, I'm just going to single her out, was Katie Couric. She made a review. It's this Superman book that's out today, and it looks like he snorted a little kryptonite. And I was actually disgusted that she used a couple of things here. Okay,
Did she
talking
really?
about demographics. Okay, I have like this MILF. That's I'm gonna call her MILF. Not that I would, but I'm just gonna call her MILF.
I would call her a MILF. Yeah.
Yeah, I call her a MILF. But
did she really say
yeah, she
kryptonite?
actually said it. But this is the funny thing. It's a demographic of today's kids. Not that I know a lot of movies that played in the 80s and everybody snorting coke. So she uses a drug reference to her heyday about a book that is geared towards today's kids' heyday that they maybe don't even know about snorting kryptonite.
Today's kids is all about the purple drink.
Whatever it is, I don't know. And it's like, wow. And that was a pin on the nose. You're not the demographic that you're talking about it, and you're using a drug reference that's not today, and you're criticizing a kid that he's not 225 pounds of muscle because, crack the book and read it. He's 20 years old. He can't look like he's on roids and 20 years old. I personally wouldn't have. I mean, there's some 20-year-old men, I'm sure, that are, pretty muscular guys, but I don't think you'll ever see a 20-year-old actor play Superman in a movie because he's not developed enough. I mean, the Smallville actor Tom Welling. He was probably never 20 years old when he filmed that show.
When he first started, he was 72. And then at the last season, he was 81.
Well, I'm just saying.
No, he was older. He started at like 29.
It was just funny, and that's where the criticisms comes from. It's not like, oh my God, he draws horrible. It's sometimes my decisions and the process of the book, I guess, I get criticized on. But those are just decisions,
What's amazing though about what you're saying is exactly what you brought. People who it's not made for want to, boost the market. They want to shift the market. Like they want to tell you.
Everybody wants to step on the soapbox is really what it comes down to, and that's what the internet is so everybody can step up on the soapbox. But I personally, when I used to work in video retail, where people would ask me my opinion of like, well, what should I watch? What will I like tonight? I'm on a date, or something. Or you could see the girlfriend with them, and this guy's hoping tonight works out well. That's why they're watching a video at his place, And they would ask me, well, what do you like? And I'd be like, well, you don't. Well, what do you like? Because you don't know me,
right? I know.
I could tell him.
I'm a sick guy.
I could I could give him like, hey, you should watch Requiem for a Dream, and it's gonna work out for you and your girl, and he ain't gonna get
the
anything.
gangbang scene comes on.
Yeah, girl on girl, and for heroin to boot. Like, I mean, he ain't gonna, that date's not gonna to work out.
Yeah.
But I'm not like Requiem for a Dream because I like Aronofsky a lot. But
It's a great movie.
yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great director. But
I have to ask you now, because not to cut you off, but because you brought it up and you drew a lot of Batman, Superman. Did you know Marlon Wayans was originally cast as Robin
no, I didn't.
in Tim Burton's Batman Returns? Chew on that, yeah. That's a fact. He got paid. He got paid money to go away.
Wait, to sign off?
He signed the contract, and then the studio was like, what are we doing with... Okay, forget the fact Robin's black, but he's a 20-pound Wayne's brother. What are we doing here? And they literally said, here's money. Please go away. They paid him his full contract.
That's
And people always think I'm lying or I'm making that up, and then they go home and they're like, you know, Billy D. Williams was Two-Face in part 1.
Yeah, I know he was. Yeah. No, a lot of people continuity needs things.
Yeah, it's amazing how, actors change in movies, but Harvey Dent went from being a black older gentleman to a southern
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, a plantation owner in some films. But
it's funny. I like Tommy Lee Jones a lot, but not that movie. It's funny in the interview. I remember before he came out, he's like, "Why are you in this?" Because my kid brought me a comic and said, "Hey, Dad." It's like I don't think he really
was
thought
into
about
it.
But I don't know. Now you're gonna get me on Schumacher, man. We gotta talk about something else.
You got well. I don't know how we got here, and I'm sorry for taking here.
I
but
mentioned
please.
Aronofsky, but
Marlon Wayans. That's how I'm sorry.
And he's in that. Yeah, he's in Requiem. But anyways, back the demographic thing. I think like a lot of criticisms on the internet. Like maybe people don't. They think, oh, this is my opinion, but it's like, well, you're throwing it out to the world, and people are going to see it.
And they overestimate their opinion.
Yeah, they overestimate and they underestimate how many people might run
disagree,
across it.
Right?
Or I have so many different age group people. And this is my success story to Earth One. I was at C2E2. The book's been out. It sold over 100,000 copies. The book sold over 100,000 copies just in English. And I'm at a table. I have all my other work there: Red Lanterns, some different DC images I've drawn and stuff, portfolio. And this girl just like does a double take and looks at me. She's like, "Oh, did you do the Superman?" Did you do the Superman moving out of home, the Clark Kent? And I'm like, yeah.
She didn't know the name.
Yeah. She's like, I borrowed that from my library. You worked on that? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, she was like, I don't know. She looked like, I'm going to say she was 18, 19, redhead chick. She was cute, and not that I'm looking or
kind
anything.
Kind of Mary Jane looking.
Yeah, Mary Jane looking. No, actually, she had her hair pulled back in ponytail. She's a very, modest looking girl, but, I mean, she looked like, kind of shy, cute girl in high school. And she's like, oh, you worked on that? And I'm like, yeah, well, what'd you do? I'm like, oh, I drew it. And she looked at me, and she just ran away. And she, and she said that, she had borrowed it and read it from her library. She did not know any of my other work. She had read the one book, and I felt like I did my job right because that girl doesn't like comics, and she was probably there because her boyfriend was there or her friends, and she had read the book and just tripped over. Oh my God, you're the guy that drew the book. And I was like, oh my God, I did my job right, because that was my job, was not to apply continuity and stuff. It was to go after new readers that maybe don't like comics. Not even that they like Superman. She didn't even say, oh, you drew the Superman book. She said, oh, the Clark Kent moving out of home thing. And that it was, the character had a name, which was Clark Kent, but it was about a guy moving out of home and into the world.
Struggling with himself.
Yeah.
You've never seen that before.
Book, and she was, and I was like, hey, somebody drew a comic about, preteen coming to age and dealing with moving to your next plateau in life.
That was really great about this, because in all the other Superman, I mean, you would always get his origin, but here is his origin. My dad told me to be good. I'm good. It was just I got two dads, and they both told me to do this, and I'm chugging it, man. And here it was a lot more. And I know this is an opinion thing.
Yeah.
My opinion, I hate J. Michael Straczynski. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like I
He's
won't
a good
review,
guy. He's
and
a good
I'm
guy.
sure he's an amazing. I mean, I always see him. I'm sure he's but everything I've read of his,
Yeah.
it took me 7 or 8 months after this book came out to read it, because and a lot of it. Well, I hate his work. Everything though that I hated about him, I realized after reading the book, most of it was done by editors and public. I taught the whole Spider-Man thing of having Gwen Stacy sleep with Osborn and have babies. I was like, and then the selling the soul, the selling, and none of that was his fault. But I mean, I didn't enjoy that. But after reading this book, I got like a newfound appreciation for him, and I actually went back and started watching Babylon 5.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy, I was like, why doesn't this guy do his own crap? Because I mean, his own stuff would probably, you know what I mean? You could tell he's a completely different writer from here and in there when he's alone, when he's got freedom. I mean, is there anything like that for an artist? I mean, do they put chains on you
I can't
sometimes?
speak for JMS, but I'll tell you how, like, this book, I'll tell you a story, and then you can figure out how you want to apply it. But I'm going to flip in here just to a page in case anybody has the actual book. But
we'll blow it
this
up
is
for the
actually the Clark Kent design. I first sat down and drew, and I only hit it once. And I turned it in, and the first remark I had from a member of the staff was, "Oh, that's interesting. How about if Clark Kent just had a high school letter jacket, and you fix his hair?" And it was like, okay.
That's
and
not
I
today.
actually wrote back and I said, well, he's 20 and he's moving out of home, and he'd probably get his ass kicked if some 20-year-old is wearing their high school letter jacket, moving out of home into the big city.
And with the
to
pompadour.
move. Yeah. But it was, and I was like, what if the whole story is that he's trying to hide, so he should be wearing multiple layers of clothing, and the hood is actually there not to wear, but to actually foreshadow his destiny of wearing a cape. And that's why it's red, and I wanted to give him the asymmetrical design element, like the spit curl and the S. There's some design elements that don't like mirror each other. So I gave him the racing stripes on one arm, and stuff like that. But I mean, it was a lot of mentality. I don't know, on some of these things, and that's what the companies are there to do, though, is to preserve an IP. And the person was right in saying, why are you straying off the beaten path? That was his job to say that. But at the same time, job we were doing,
if you don't do that, you're not
going to
sell.
though. Yeah, but the job we were supposed to do wasn't to give you the same. And
Exactly.
I think I actually said, well, if I do that, then it will look a lot like this Clark Kent and this book over here, which I think was the Mark Waid book. I'm not going to remember its name off the bat. Lino, you did it. I can't think of its name. But anyways, I'd say it'd be like that. But the difference in that one is it actually showed him in school. He was actually in school.
The Mark Waid origin.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he actually was in school. In this, it's like, well, he's not even in school. You need to get to mindset. And that's the weird thing. It's like, I don't want comics. It's possible that, especially this being out of continuity, I don't even know why people thought that. And somebody said, oh, well, Jimmy Olsen, to the writer, like, oh, well, shouldn't he look like Superman's pal? Shouldn't he be more like Superman's pal?
Wow, and these are people that actually work for DC.
They're a committee that I mean, seriously, in all due respect, I mean, that's what they do every day, is try to preserve what they have.
So,
and somebody,
their job is to water down
blood.
quality.
No. It's like if we were an invading germ and white blood cells were coming at us,
Right.
I mean, and that's what they were supposed to do, is say, oh, are you going to hurt us? And it's like, well, this is the story that we're trying to do, and this is, the things that we'll have to, and maybe we should think differently, That's how that came about.
So how many people did you actually have to deal with? You have to deal with JMS.
Well,
He's right, and then who else
it's not
is involved?
have to deal with, okay?
Well,
all right,
Yeah,
all
it's in the-
right.
who-
No.
who's
I mean,
involved?
but I'm hands down. I've worked on 2 books. That's 250 pages. My working relationship with JMS has been nothing but great. I talked to him online. I talked to him about every page I drew,
Right.
about everything I thought we should go this way, go that way, and it worked out well. We actually gelled really good together, but I have a big respect for him from, believe it or not, the things I watched growing up.
Like the
I don't want to
shows he did?
single it. I'm sure he doesn't like it, but like He-Man, Ghostbusters, I have like a huge respect for his body of work
Yeah, that's amazing.
because of that. But
I only knew him from the Marvel stuff,
yeah,
and I didn't want nothing to do with him. But
Yeah.
after reading this and then going back, and then there's actually interviews
well,
with him.
He-Man's He-Man. I'm not saying that's great
Well,
or
no, but,
anything, but I
he
mean, there's
is
some
a completely-
Ghostbusters episodes that are
He
really
is a
good.
completely the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
He's a completely different guy from the way his Marvel writing made him. I mean, it really
Yeah.
did. I mean, I actually recommended this book
Well,
to people. I mean,
and that's
it wasn't his fault, the Marvel stuff.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not. I don't know anything about that stuff.
I mean,
to
from
tell
what
you
I
the truth.
read,
Yeah,
it was.
I
I've read arguments that
But
happened.
I
and
only
stuff.
know like what I've worked with him on, and I mean, we were lucky to be given some leash on this,
Mm-hmm.
but don't think that we were. Oh my God! Just at first people did raise an eyebrow. Why are you making Jimmy Olsen like this? And he had a background in journalism, so he said, well, no, photographers are like this. And, and I said, no, Clark should be like this and dress this way because he's actually hiding who he is instead of like ta-da.
So y'all had each other's back on this.
I don't know if we had each other's back, but we had each other's creative points of views of why these things should be this way. And not that we didn't like the idea of Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, or that I don't like the idea of a high school letter jacket. We all had our reasons for it. The kid would get his ass kicked for wearing a high school letter jacket. He's 20. He's like, oh, I'm moving into New York City. You're going to get mugged.
In a pompadour and
You're
a
going to get
Letterman
mugged.
jacket.
You're just wearing a target for somebody to steal your money.
I have to ask now,
Yeah.
because now I'm curious. What was the worst suggestion you got? I know you got one like stupid. Be honest. You don't have to mention the name, but I know you got one that was like, what? And you wanted to pull your hair out. Was it? I mean, did someone say make Superman black?
No.
Homosexual?
No. I had like some
Did y'all think
people-
about making him gay? Because there was
No.
rumors about that. Was that ever
No,
up for
on
debate?
Earth One?
Yeah.
No. He actually has 2. He has a girlfriend. So, yeah. He has a love interest in the building he's living in. Because he has to move into an actual apartment because he burned down the other place. Or the pod did, the fragment of the pod. But he actually meets a girl and he has a girl relationship and he doesn't know how to go about it. So, it's weird. Like, a lot of times when I'm drawing that book, I honestly draw from a lot of life experience. I mean, I moved away and I moved into Jersey, New York area, so I remember what it's like. I think it's like page 2 or something. Like, literally, he's like looking up at the city. And, it's just a big shot. I remember it was beautiful. We're going back to online criticism. I could do this all day. This is great.
That is beautiful. Yeah.
They showed the previews. Here's a page. So he's like in New York for the first time, and this is funny. I'm going to single this guy out. I don't know this guy, but he's like, "Oh, this is so stupid." This preview, Shane Davis, Superman's just like he's staring up at a building, or no, he's like just staring up at this, or he said something, and it was like about where he's looking, and it was completely wrong. It was like funny because I show everything. You see the back of Superman. You don't see like it's not about him. It's about everything he's looking at. He's like, why is that so stupid? Why is he like staring up at a building? That's just dumb. He actually just went to town on me for
Because Superman wouldn't be interested in anything pretty.
Well, first
Ever.
he came from the country, and here's all these big things. But the funny thing is he's appreciating the birds flying through the city, which he can fly, and he's never been in a city, and he's he's appreciating something that everybody else around him's taking for granted, and the guy's criticizing me, and I have an artistic reason for doing that, and even if it only comes across subconsciously, like you hope people.
Yeah, but
like,
it works for the story too.
But it shows that he's in a new place that
Right.
everybody takes for granted.
I mean, I get he can fly, but he still
but I'm
wants
just
to
saying
look
that,
around at.
You're talking about this guy is just giving me crap for him looking at.
Yeah,
It's like he just wanted him to look.
How do you
cool,
deal with
and
that though? Does that I mean, do you like send a
I have
nasty
anger
email?
management issues. I don't know. You know. Seriously, ever since I worked on this, I've been.
It must eat at you though. This
No, you know
criticism.
what?
From weirdos.
I work out like I don't know. I work out like 6 times a week at least. I mean, a lot of cardio though, but a lot of cardio like boxing and kickboxing.
Try to like get everything under control. Does it? I mean,
yeah, I just don't want to flip out. Nah, it's not like that. I mean, like, but if I have any aggressions, I usually take them out somewhere else. Yeah, it's not even the working out. I mean, I get a, I mean, I do like to, I do like to lay into the bag a bit. So, I mean, it's fun. I mean, there's something therapeutic about, multiple, cross jab, uppercut, cross jab hook, double jab, cross hook, there's something. The rhythm of it, and it's therapeutic, and it's not that you guys type online and I go hit the bag at the gym. It's not that at all. I honestly don't think about that. I'm just, but I think a lot of.
I have so much respect for you guys though putting up. I mean, I know JMS. I gave him so much shit before. Because when I was like reading, like we do a podcast, and I was for years, and we was reading. The last few issues of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I gave him a horrible nickname because I hated, and I was like, how do y'all deal with that? Like, if somebody was to do what I do to other people, don't you just want to punch us?
When I mentioned Katie Couric, the only reason she bothered me was because she never read the book.
Yeah, they just judge you without.
She just judged me about an image, and he looks like he's on drugs. I don't even think she knew he was 20. I don't even think she knew he was 20 years old.
Well, because,
and that's what killed me.
They're handed the crap.
But
right
when they
before.
actually, I know, and I know she can't be bothered to read a book. She can't be bothered to read a book, to throw out an opinion before the book, even the first day it's out, just so she can have something to talk about that's on the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah,
But
and then they want to review it in full after 30 seconds. It must get frustrating.
That was because I mean it's a lot of work, and I really must sound like I have a hate on for Katie Couric now, but
I don't think it comes off. I think it comes off
as
the way
like
it
a
should.
20-year-old man or something too. I think her boyfriend is like significantly younger than her too.
I
don't know. Not that I'm judging her now. Now I really sound like a hater. It's not even that. I hate the idea of somebody judging a piece of work, whether it was a movie or anything, without actually knowing what you're talking about, And I'm not saying people that have opinions don't know what they're talking about, but if you're saying this movie's stupid because of this, and it's like, do you know the book's about that? Then you obviously didn't even give it a chance before you had an opinion. But going back, how do you deal with it? It's weird. There's a lot more important things in life to worry about than people's opinions.
Still, though, it must.
I'm more worried about my opinion of being the best drawing person because, like, I'm like any artist. When I start out drawing, you have tons of imperfections, and I'm always trying to get around those imperfections. And I'm always trying to be just enough realistic and detailed without being too much. I mean, I could go in and throw more lines in on stuff all day long, but I'm always just trying to hit, like, this is where I think it should kind of be, and this works with colors right, and this works with that right, and this says this, and this comps this way. I'm more worried about those than I am about the opinions in a weird way, because if I worry about those more than the opinions, this comes all full circle. Trust me, if I worry more about my set of rules, then they usually take care of the other opinions, which is back to what you said, why don't more people pick out, like, you drawing a foot wrong or this?
Yeah.
So that's usually where my attention is not the opinions behind me, but my opinion ahead of me, and which is always pushing me forward. And usually that takes care of what's behind me.
Yes, but I have to ask now, what are you going forward to right now? I mean, we know we got Earth 1,
Volume
Part
2. Yeah, that's been done like since January, so that'll be out in October. And that features
How do
my
they do
design
that?
on Parasite and stuff. What do you mean?
Like, it's coming out. It's done in January. Well, how do they make the decision? Okay, we're gonna release it in October. Is it for Christmas?
I think the book market runs differently. Well, one, like, we are always done for galleys on these, at least this one, so people could read it 6 months in advance and give it reviews. So it's a different publishing format. Aside from that, it could be retail reasons. I'm actually not accustomed to that, so I'm not accustomed to that, so I don't know. Like, there might be a reason they're targeting that time, but I think there's also the Batman Earth 1 book that's the same format that's coming out this summer.
Yeah, that's
in
Jeff
July. I
Johns
think that's
and-
in Gary Frank, and I think that's out in July. So I would imagine they want that one, and then maybe 2 to come out. So I mean, they're kind of. I don't know if they tie in together at all. To tell you the truth, I don't think they do, but. I wouldn't know anyways. I don't work on it, but they're in the same world, I think. So maybe they want them synchronized in a way. So
Are you? Any chance you're doing Earth 3, or has that not even been talked about yet? I mean, Earth 1,
nobody's
Part
talked
3.
to me about it, so we haven't talked about it at all.
So we know we got a big announcement coming.
Yeah, I got a big announcement coming. I am.
Give us some hints.
What
You're allowed to legally.
I'm legally not allowed to even say that there is something coming. It's fun. I'm doing it. I'm putting a lot into it. A lot of people that have seen this stuff says it looks like some of my best work. It's a project I chose to go do, and for really good reasons. That'll be, out in the open. I think. I hope it means a lot to a lot of people, industry-wise. It's got its ambitions, though.
But the announcement will be made sometime in July.
Yeah.
For some weird event we never heard of.
Some weird event you never heard of, where people wear weird costumes for no reason. They just do it, And
Probably on the street or something.
Yeah, on the street. Yeah, I'm working on stuff, and I've been working on it, so we're well into that. I'm working with a very talented writer. I'm working with a very, very big talented inker and a very big talented color. So we're all like star people together on something.
Something all-star.
It is an all-star team.
Nice.
So it really is. Like, everybody, when you see it and you hear who's involved, you're gonna be like, wow, these are people from this project, from this project, from this project, and we all have big credentials. So it's going to be a very interesting project.
Let me ask you, because I know we're eating up a lot of your time. Do you have like a dream project? I mean, any company. I mean,
yeah, I had a co-writing art pitch for The Atom that I really liked, but
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I had a co-writing pitch with a friend of mine for The Atom for DC that I really liked, and I was really into. Yeah, it was rethinking the character a little bit, but
which Atom?
Well, believe it or not, it was more of a concept, so which Atom it could have been would have changed, but I think
so it could have been.
It was more about the concept of the character than it was about which person we went with, because it was more about what if the Atom did this, so it was different. And at the time, I think it was at the 52, so,
So is that the one that got away, or do we have a chance of?
I don't know. It's still there. I don't know if DC would ever really want to pursue that still, but it was a bold new concept on the Atom with a ticking bomb, and he was gonna be the guy that could save Manhattan, and that's the only superhero that could, and
that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. because he would do the thing that everybody else couldn't do, and he had the clock against him, and it was a pretty big concept.
I love the Atom, but we never did anything good with the Atom.
Well, we didn't, and that's where I came into play on my pitch. Now I'm just going to say the pitch, but my goal was I built everything around who is the Atom's arch villain, which he doesn't have one.
Yeah,
and that was, I actually addressed it in like tackling what was the problem with the Atom, fix that, and then everything else fixes
Oh, wow.
itself.
So this was a ground.
No, it was a ground up
Yeah.
pitch where I actually addressed like what I thought like was missing. His villain sitting at the table of the Legion of Doom, and
So do you think if we was to put Dan DiDio's address and maybe do some postcarding, you think there's a chance?
Maybe if you guys campaigned. I don't know if at the time, like maybe DC just didn't know where Atom would fit in with their books, at the moment, because they were tackling only X characters at the moment. I don't think he was,
I have good terms with DC.
Do you really?
I do. I have. I mean, not like I can't like pitch a book, but I'm friendly. Like they don't hate me, but I'm going to say something that probably makes them hate me.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest.
Yeah.
They, in my opinion, they gave up on every current reader to try to go after people who's never read comics before. They went the Nintendo route.
Yeah.
That forget everyone that plays games.
Yeah.
Let's get to everyone else.
Yeah.
And I just that rubbed me the wrong way. But I know you can't comment on that because you don't want to burn bridges. We're going to give away this copy of Superman Earth 1. Would you sign it and draw a Superman logo? You got to do both.
I got to do both.
Yeah.
All right.
And can I just say you are one of the hardest working men I have ever seen. You are here killing yourself. I mean, it is amazing.
I get really soaked up into charity events, and then which I'm always like up for as much charity as I can do. Like somebody joked about, there should be a Dexter one shot, and I was like, some proceeds should go to some animal foundation or something. Yeah. But it's just weird. Like I don't know. I get really, I like talking to the fans, which is always good. And I like I don't know, like. I usually, it's weird because I think it's like market research in a weird way, but I like to see who actually reads things, talk to them, why they read it. Like a guy's like, oh, I read this to my daughter. And I'm like, no, you don't. You read it for yourself. Yeah, you read it. Because he looked really embarrassed. It looked like this truck driver with the Earth 1 copy under his arm. And he looked so embarrassed to be asking me to sign this book, and you could totally tell it had been worn. And he's like, "Oh, I read this to my daughter," and I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "At night."
Yeah.
As he's walking away, like he's trying to make an excuse,
That's what the 3-year-old girl wants to hear at Bad Superman.
Yeah, and I'm like, "There's no way you're reading this to a little girl at night," But
she wants to hear about a man going through the next level in his life after puberty. Yeah, that's.
But I also like the fans that kind of don't like that I'm here, a little bit, or they kind of give me weird looks or ask me booby trap questions. I like those guys too. I mean, but I do like interacting with the fans a little bit and hearing what they have to say. And it's weird. I'm in a place right now where I hope like everybody that likes my artwork isn't really just about Superman, and that like a lot of people are prepared and willing to follow me onto other ventures I'm doing. I've been doing some Marvel covers lately, so I got like a lot of stuff coming out in the next year. It's gonna be a complicated year with for me, and I hope like I have a lot of good moral support from fans, and I expect like some people to be very concerned and weird about what's about to be announced, but a lot of time I hope like fans are really excited and jazzed, and they are really happy to have what's getting ready to happen. But
I'm excited.
Yeah,
if that's any indication.
You don't even know what I'm talking about.
Man, I'm excited.
There you go. That's.
I mean, I hate when people drop all the hints and because I hate surprises, but I'm
Yeah.
excited. I can't lie. I'm excited just about finding out who you're working with. To be honest with you.
Yeah, believe it or not, like that's part of the bells and whistles. I think is like a lot of if people understand this what this medium's became.
That is beautiful.
You're gonna be a little like, well, wow, that's different, and this is gonna be different in general. And what if this came first before that? Well, what does that mean? What if you hired the best people to do this before that, and what does that encompass? So it's gonna be great.
Sounds really good.
So
And
there you go.
someone's gonna win that. One final thing about you and your website. You sell art. Can we if people want to buy your art, some of your, or if they want to,
Original,
they have a special request or something, can you do that?
You can go to the artistshanedavis.com and you can find me on Facebook really
It'll
easy.
be all somewhere on here floating.
Yeah. So my Facebook page is always easy to contact me and find me on Facebook. And I may be starting a DeviantArt page. I've actually been avoiding it, but it may be starting one just because I gotta be a little bit more out there for people. But Facebook's usually the best place to find me.
Wow, very cool.
All right, man.
I
Thanks a
appreciate
lot.
you spending time with us today and yesterday. So
All right, cool,
thanks.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.